Hi, everybody. Welcome to May's first Wednesday, our virtual first Wednesday opening reception. My name is Jason Andreessen. I am the CEO for Baton Rouge Gallery. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for supporting the gallery during these strange and unpredictable times. We've got a great presentation for you tonight. We've got 4 artists showing with us all this month through the 27th. You can come by the gallery anytime between noon and 6, every day but Monday, and come see this show for yourself in person. You will hear from all 4 artists today, or tonight I should say. Kristine Thompson, Ryan Kelley, Rob Carpenter, and David Horton. All 4 will join us so that you can hear directly from the artists themselves about their latest works. Thank you again to each of these artists for joining us. We've got a really exciting announcement before we get to the artists that hopefully you guys are as excited about as we are. But before we do, we want to say, as always, a quick word of thanks to all of our members, all of our donors, everyone who helps support the gallery and support the gallery's mission and programming and exhibitions throughout the year. Thank you to everybody who helps make this possible. If you aren't already a member, you can go to batonrougegallery.org/join and become a member. There are both annual and monthly plans, whatever is convenient, whatever works for your budget. So please support the gallery, support local art. And with that, I'll turn things over to Kelsey Livingston, our exhibitions director, with this month's membership giveaway.
A little bit shorter. Okay. Hey, everybody. Today we are giving away 2 BRG face masks by artist member Kathleen Lemoyne. And they, this month, are going to members Christy-Ann Dreiling, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Richard L. Morgan. So congrats, you guys. Come on in and pick up your masks. I'll hold them at my desk.
Yay.
Congratulations. If you would like a mask of your own, you can also get them on our website, batonrougegallery.org/BRG-masks. They are still available. We've got a ton here on hand, so you can get your pick in 2 different sizes. So as I mentioned, we've got some exciting news, exciting announcements. There are actually 3 different announcements to be made. The first is, and this is specifically for those of you out there who might be thinking about updating or changing around the artwork in your homes or your offices. 3 exciting announcements, the first of which is something we're calling 22.5 delivery here at the gallery. That means that your home, your office, if it is located within 22.5 miles of Baton Rouge Gallery, which is located here inside of Brex City Park, you get free delivery. We will bring the artwork to you. You don't need to worry about whether or not the artwork is too big for your vehicle or anything of the sort. We will take care of it for you. You just need to let us know that that is something that you'd like us to do, and we'll make sure to get it safely and soundly to its new home. So that is the first one. Secondly, we have, many of you may be aware that we have long had payment plans available. If you were in need or interested in having payment plans as it relates to the purchase of original art. But now you can actually go online on our website and request a payment plan. All it requires is a 25% initial deposit, and we can set up monthly automatic payments that you don't even need to worry about for you right from the gallery. So interest-free payment plans is our second announcement for the night. And if you would like to find out more information about all of these things, you can go to batonrougegallery.org/buying-brg for more information about both payment plans and that 22.5 delivery. And the last announcement, one we are very excited about, is a new partnership between Baton Rouge Gallery and a service called Art Placer. Art Placer is a free app that you can download from the Apple Store or from Google Play. It sits right on your phone, right on your mobile device. And thanks to Art Placer, you can actually take artwork that you are considering for your home or office and place it right onto the wall wherever you like. Again, whether that's home or office or another space. The Art Placer app will allow you to place that artwork onto the wall and do so at scale and do so with perspective so that you really get a sense of what that artwork will look like in your room, along with the furniture or how it will affect the space. All of those things, all of those questions that might be asked when you're considering bringing a new piece of art home, with augmented reality, we can take care of every one of them just about. For those of you who may not have access to a smartphone or to a mobile device like that, From our website, you can simply fill out a very short form and let us know which artworks you're interested in, and the BRG staff can actually take care of creating a mock-up for you at no cost to show you exactly what new art would do for your space. So with that being said, again, batonrougegallery.org/buying-BRG for more information on all of these things. We're going to turn the camera over to Kelsey Livingston, our exhibitions director, yet again for a quick walkthrough of what the Art Placer app looks like and what it does from straight from Baton Rouge Gallery's website.
Okie dokie. So from your mobile device, like your cell phone, you would go to our website, find the artist you're looking for, scroll down to their work, click on it, and then the first button is a purchase button. We encourage you to use that one. But the second one is the View in Augmented Reality button. That's going to open the Art Placer app. Give me just a second here. It'll pull up the piece of work that you've clicked on. And then you need access to your camera. So we're going to preview in Augmented Reality. And then we're going to, bear with me real quick. So it's looking for the floor. Sorry, I'm sure this is riveting. Hang on. Yeah, let's go back and try this again. Of course it works until you want it to, right? Hang on.
Why don't you try it in the spot where Kristine's work is?
All right, let's try that. Let's come over here. There we go. It has it. There. Well, anyway, of course, this works until we're live, right? That's the way it goes.
But you can see there's a red line that appears, and once you line that up with where the wall meets the floor, it will place the piece onto the wall. You step back a little bit.
Well, anyway, we should move forward. It works until you're live. That's how this
Well,
goes.
we invite you to try it out for yourself. Go to batonrougegallery.org/buying-BRG. Every single piece that you see in the gallery tonight and all this month, you can actually hit that augmented reality button and test it out for yourself. See what some of these new works might look like in your space. So thank you again for joining us. If you have any questions about any of these announcements that we've made tonight, please let us know. Feel free to drop us an email or drop a comment either on YouTube or Facebook. And with that, we'll turn things over and get started with tonight's presentation with all four artists. And we're going to start here in the front room with Kristine Thompson. If Kristine's with us, we'll hear from Kristine about her latest exhibition, A Matter of Time. Let's see if we can bring Kristine in. There we go. Hi, Kristine.
Hi, Jason.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to start, you can just go ahead and we'll make our way through the exhibition, and you can just tell us a little bit about individual works or the show overall.
Sure. So this is a collection of photos that I've made really over the past year as a response to the changes that we were all facing and really the various kinds of loss that I think as a country we were grappling with. And I think this is the image that you're on now is a good kind of establishing photo because all of the works in the show start or were inspired by a particular photograph from a newspaper or a headline from a newspaper. And just as an image, I'm interested in this as the stack of papers as a kind of accumulation of time, a marking of days and months. And I think within the image or within the stack, you can sort of see age as some of the newspapers are more yellowed than others. But I wanted this picture to exist at a certain scale so that when you're up close to it, you can actually make out some of the headlines or the slivers of images that I think might put you back into that time of specific news events or specific, just all of the things that were unfolding over the past year culturally and socially. And so the other works really just were a way for me to kind of meditate on that, and interspersed between a lot of the other media-based pieces in the show are these photographs of my hands in various positions, either holding something that you can't quite see or opened up as a kind of offering to the viewer with specific information or objects to look at. And then these works are, many of them are kind of a collage or a collection of bits of information that from different contexts that I'm putting in conversation with each other. So in this particular work, there's a photograph on the left that was made by a great artist, Roy DiCarava, and it's an image of the back of a man's suit that has been, where the seam was torn and it's been mended. I love this picture so much. I've held on to it. I show it to my students all the time. And I was thinking about that act of mending or of repair and wanting to put that in conversation with these graphs that I was kind of obsessing over, tracking virus cases, tracking economic discrepancies, tracking climate change. And then in the center of that is an EKG readout. So wanting to place this data really much kind of in alongside the physical body itself, or thinking about the way these measures of our physical and social environment come back to the body, come back to the physical. For a very long time, my work has taken up issues of loss and of mourning, and thinking about how we remember people who are no longer here. And that's definitely a thread that's woven through this whole show. This is a spread from the Memorial Day issue of the New York Times. They listed names of those who had passed away, a representative sample of those up until that point. So I was just interested in the way the light sort of interacted with this newspaper and the strange confluence of advertising alongside this really heavy subject. Definitely thinking a lot about just our physicalities and the physical body, the vulnerability of the body, and hands kind of appear again and again in a lot of the work, just thinking about that desire for contact, or the desire for connection that I think a lot of us couldn't have in a tactile way. I think this is a good example of just hands. I love these, I've held on to these images of these mourning statues, these French mourners that appeared on tombs in the 14th and 15th century. And what they're doing with their hands in terms of covering their bodies in grief or holding certain offerings in the form of a memorial, and wanting that to just exist alongside these images from the contemporary newspaper, thinking especially about, there's just like a tiny bit of text you can kind of make out that I think places it in relation to this search for racial justice and the trauma and the violence that we've been thinking about a lot, I think, in relation to the Black body. I think this is probably the most overt piece that involves that idea of gesture and hands and connection. These are images that I've lived with in my studio over the past year, some that I've made myself, but a lot of them of other artworks that I really admire, and wanting to create these kinds of constellations where these works from really different time periods and really different sources are just visually placed in relationship to each other. And just thinking about all of the power of the hand as a symbol of protest, or as a symbol of caregiving, a symbol of self-assessment or self-awareness.
Kristine, obviously the last year has been tough on everybody in some respects, but certainly difficult. I'm wondering if the last year has kind of changed how you view grief or mourning. How have the specific circumstances of the last year plus impacted how you approach this subject?
Yeah, I think it's become omnipresent. I think for all of us in a way. I think when we lose someone in particular, we grapple with it personally in our own way, but I think there was a sense of collective mourning that made me rethink just the kinds of things that I wanted to be making work about. Formally, this work is really different. I was trying to just make a photograph every day as a kind of meditation, or as a way of just making it through the days. And, obviously, I think, like many of us, I was really news obsessed. And I think that drive toward consuming media and wanting to then kind of extract that and translate it, to do something with it, to handle it in a material way, definitely fed into the way that the grief or loss exists in these pictures.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to let us in a little bit on the significance of these works.
Yeah, thank you for the tour, for being there, for showing us through it.
Absolutely. Anything else that folks should know about this body of work before they come and see it this month?
No, I would love for people to see it in person. And, ultimately, I hope that the photographs have a kind of emotional weight to them, and that it might, slow people down and get them to look again, or to contemplate these things in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you, Kristine. We appreciate it. Again, you can see all of these works at batonrougegallery.org/current, where you'll find a link to Kristine's work specifically. And next up, we'll hear from another artist showing with us this month, Ryan Kelley. Her latest exhibition titled Tumbling Stone. See if we can bring her on.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
I'm grand. How are you doing, Jason?
Fantastic. All things considered, not bad at all. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Oh, not at all. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'll turn things over to you. Why don't you just tell everybody about the works and the show Tumbling Stone?
Okay, will do. The title Tumbling Stone is one that came to me recently. I had made all the work. It was completely finished. And I was listening to World Cafe, and the legendary producer Daniel Lanois was being interviewed. And his new album named Heavy Sun is an amazing album. And one of the tracks on the piece is called Tumbling Stone. And it's a song that's about wandering pilgrims, and it has these motifs of stones in it. And that's something that's recurrent in several of the works in the exhibition. And so I chose that as the title for the collection of paintings. The subject matter of the work is their traveling cases. There are things that you might bring on a journey. They're books and such. They're basically still life paintings. And I've been engaged with still life painting for a very long while. But really up until the time of this exhibition, I'd been really thinking a lot about Vanitas painting. And these works are really the opposite of Vanitas painting. Vanitas painting is painting that reminds you of death, and it reminds you sort of the opposite in a way of Kristine's show, which I think is kind of is an interesting confluence of things. But these are not. What they're about is about preparation for life. They're not meant to be taking the seriousness of the circumstances of the world in a lighthearted manner, but rather than focusing on behave because life is short, which is what Vanitas paintings say. These paintings are more about, there may be some things that you can bring along with you. There are things that you can prepare for life and that you might take with you in your journey. There might be very practical things. There might be lucky socks. There might be a medallion or something that would be meaningful to you. And so it's that kind of sorting of objects that make up the subject matter of these paintings. So a tin cup, and all the paintings are worked from life. I kind of have the objects, and working them that intently is a way to understand the form, and it's a very meditative and sort of calming process. Some of the paintings that have a two-dimensional aspect to them, like this half-mile marker, and the book paintings, as well as the carrying cases, are about trompe-l'oeil illusionism. This one is entitled C.P. Arnold, which is it's really the name of the object. I didn't make that up. It's what you use for CPR practice. And the central work in the exhibition is this work called Song of Degrees. And Song of Degrees is the meaning of the phrase Song of Degrees. It's a song of ascents or a pilgrim song. And it's also refers to any one of Psalm 1, I think it's 124 to 130, thereabouts. There are 15 psalms that were sung while pilgrims were ascending the mountain, Mount Zion in Jerusalem, to go to Jerusalem. So this is a mountain of objects here, sort of a midden-like mountain, but there are objects that might be taken in preparation for a journey. There are books, there's a magic 8-ball, there are talisman-like stones that are polished there. There's a kind of an oil lamp, binoculars, a teapot, and these kind of collection of objects that I have in my home that I worked on the basis of for this painting. My husband's the model for it, for the pilgrim as well. And more still life objects. This one is entitled Elixir. Might be a magical medicine. This one is based upon a novena card that belonged to my grandmother. And so I so much enjoyed working on this, thinking about how many times she held this piece of paper and how it's so folded up and tattered, and it's got a stain from where she taped it up, which was a non-archival glue that she used for mending the card at one point. This is called an ice cube. It's an ice cube relay, I believe is the name of it. It's a kind of resistor or battery or some kind of form. But just an object that I had that seemed to fit with the mood of the rest. Carrying case here. And on this wall, there are 3 small talisman studies. There are 2 stones, and in the middle there's a milagro, which is a folk charm used in Latin countries for healing. And the other painting, the larger painting, is a painting of this. It's a case that I bought one time. It had roller skates in it, and these old stickers from back in the day of roller derby, I'm sure. But so it's one of these kind of lighthearted carrying cases in a way.
Heather, as we make our way to the hallway,
Uh-huh.
Kelsey had a question for you.
Okay.
You use the term Vanitas. Our audience might not be familiar with what exactly that means. I know you touched on it, but can you explain a little bit more while we make our way this way?
Yeah, sure. A Vanitas painting is a painting that was actually really kind of popular especially in the 16th century, 17th century, and they were filled with symbols to remind you of the brevity of life. There'd be soap bubbles, flowers that would fade, and there would be books present in Vanitas paintings because knowledge fades away, beauty fades, all these kinds of things that express the transitoriness of life. And the point of that being that if you have a Vanitas painting, it reminds you that life is brief and that you need to adjust your priorities and shape up your life and do what's right. So it had a kind of a moral overture to it. And these works don't have that kind of admonition to it. They're not moral lessons to get you to do something, but they're really just an encouragement to prepare. Life is a journey, and there's something that is held for us, and I think it's important to be prepared for it and find the joy that's possible in the midst of difficult times and in the way that we go.
Heather, where did these books come from? I'm assuming these might be books that you already had in your home.
I did. One of the book, the little book of How to Know Rocks and Minerals, was a book that I had as a child, and most of the other ones are books that I might have found at a garage sale. I'm really obsessed with first aid books. I have a lot of first aid books and health books, and so yes, that came from that. And this is from my childhood also. It's a log ride. It's a little puzzle that's not solved correctly, but it's from Six Flags Over Texas, going down the log ride there.
Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that folks should know about your latest exhibition before we invite them to come see it in the gallery this month?
I don't think so. I think ask me all the appropriate questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to get to talk with you and everyone who might be listening.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. And again, if you're interested in Heather Ryan's work, you can obviously come and see it at the gallery. You can also see it online at batonrougegallery.org/current. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Kelsey.
All right. Next up, we're going to hear from Rob Carpenter, one of our other artist members who's been kind enough to join us here in the gallery tonight. And Rob, we'll start in this room, and then we can make our way into the hallway so that folks can see that other piece as well.
Okay, great, Jason. Mask off?
If you'd like.
Oh, okay.
Your call.
Okay.
For those watching at home, there's only about 6 or 7 people in the gallery tonight. Everybody has been vaccinated. So when you see one of us with our mask off, know that we are not taking things lightly. Anyway, Rob, have at it.
Well, great. Well, it's been 2 years since I have had a show here. And of course, with COVID, like everybody else, I've been home a lot and gotten a lot of work done. In fact, I even had so much work that I had 2 shows. So if you get to come see the gallery, you'll see that there's a bevy of other works that I didn't frame up just due to space. So there's more to see, and you can see the access in this book that you guys put together for me. So anyway, the biggest difference in the work that people who haven't seen my work over the past, the work that I've done over the past 2 years has changed. In fact, I've been doing this series for 10 years now, and this is like the third evolution of the series. They started out as mostly just flat pattern, and then they emerged into what I thought is more monolithic shapes. But as is the case here, I began to introduce curving lines to the situation. It really changed the nature, say from this piece next door here. This is actually an older work that was in my studio, and it was from this when the works tended to look a lot more like weavings and tapestries. But this piece, I looked at it, didn't really like it, so I began to just completely rework it. So, and it, not only did I change the composition a lot, I even changed the orientation of it. So if you see it come to the gallery, you'll see that it's signed in the proper place here, but in its original location, you can see it's signed up here as well. But this was more of the weavings and tapestries. And then I began to use these curvilinear lines, and they began to my eye, began to take on the look of maps, cartographic maps to be specific. And I got some a good boost on that idea when one of our fellow artist members here at the gallery, she said, "Rob, these really look like cartographic maps." And she said, "And you know, that's what I do." So if a map maker thought they look like maps, then that was okay by me. So anyway, so that's the way these have all begun. Some of the curving lines are a little more subtle, colors merge together in close value relationships, as opposed to others where there's more contrast. But it is, I'm very glad that after having done this same kind of work for 10 years, that there's still evolution, there's still change, there's still challenge taking place with using the same approach. So it reminds me, I wish I could remember the quote exactly, but Picasso once said that working within narrow means allows for some of the greatest discovery. And that's really what I've been doing all these past 10 years, is working within these very narrow confines of using pen and ink lines and that sort of thing. So I guess we move down here. This is a piece that actually is very similar to a piece I did in 2018. Primarily I was riffing off the colors here, but so I was kind of copying myself a little bit with this particular piece. But our assistant who was helping me hang these pieces last Saturday, she said, "I really like this piece. It makes me feel very calm." And I said, "Well, you just described the kind of reaction I like for people to get out of these pieces." So, here's another rework piece, the last one on the wall here. This piece also has two signatures, the original signature and this reworking, which took place back in just a couple of months ago, in April of 21. What it is these pieces sat in a flat file for months. And then, they were just completely out of sight, out of mind. And when I took them out, I would look at them and go, "Whoa, you're just not finished yet." So this piece was way too garish to my way of thinking. And so I began to neutralize it with complementary colors and neutral tans and browns and so forth. And I think I got it back under control a little bit. So,
can you tell us about how you create these lines do you use a straight edge? How are these lines created?
Every drawing begins the same way. The only mechanical tools I use are in the very initial phase of the drawing, where I draw a 1-inch grid using traditional old-fashioned mechanical drawing tools, just to draw a grid. But from that point on, there's no use of rulers or anything like that. The hands are all drawn. The lines are all drawn freehand, and that actually is really what gives a lot of extra texture, the fact that they're not perfectly straight. I think they'd be very rigid and very stiff if they were done using a draftsman tool. So
We got a question via Facebook. How long does it take for you to complete a piece? And are you okay when it's done?
And am I okay when it's done? Well, I mean, it's just like any other painting or drawing. You're going to be happier with some than you are with others. But as to how long it takes me to do one, I'm very systematic. I guess it might a little OCD thing, but not only do I work in a very confined, similar way with each drawing, but I also tend to punch the clock every day in my studio. I like to be in there at 1:30 and working, so I'm putting in a good 4 hours of drawing just about every day. And with that pacing, 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, these usually come off in a month's time or so, 3 to 4 weeks. So, but,
and perhaps there's one that is perhaps a little bit of a departure for you.
A little bit.
Could you tell us about Self-Portrait as a Blonde or Self-Portrait as Billy Idol?
Well, I put this in just because there was not going to be an opening. If somebody didn't know what I look like, I'd leave them with this idea. But actually, I'm obviously not a blonde, but this is a very old work. I used to do self-portraits every year, and I also used to work exclusively in a medium called oil stick, which is like an oil pastel, but it's much more like oil paint. It really is. It begins to just dissolve on the page. So I always like to take a little fun, make fun of myself when I do my yearly self-portraits. So this is just a throwback from the 1980s.
Gotcha. If we can go ahead and revisit the hallway, and then there's a few more pieces in the back gallery here. But Rob, can you tell us about these two pieces?
I've always been attracted to to use the fancy word, the tondo, which is a popular format during the Renaissance. And so many of the Renaissance masters used the tondo format. And so I had done some drawings 2 years ago where there was a circle in the drawing, but I was also drawing into the corners of the pieces. But I was lucky enough to get these beautiful frames from Ann Connolly, and I just couldn't let them sit about, so I just decided to just do a floating circle here. And again, they're using the curving lines and so on and so forth. There's a slight break in here. This is something that occurs in a lot of my drawings with the line down the middle. There's really a reason for that. It's because when I'm working on these drawings, they're 32-inch by 32-inch paper, and I can only, because of my short arms, I can only work on about half of the drawing at a time. Then I might flip it around and work on the other half. But invariably, I end up with some kind of like a little break that starts taking here. So a lot of times people will see that device occurring again and again. So, and this was just my first initial effort with working with the tondo and the curving lines.
Wonderful. And we'll make our way back into the back gallery.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are different here. I regret that I have to oftentimes, or I have to use glass when I'm framing these. There was an attempt with this drawing and an attempt with this drawing of taking the drawing and mounting it on a panel. And it was a little bit technical issues with the mounting that I didn't like. And then also once I did have them mounted, I realized that I really missed the frame. They looked a little naked. So, but anyway, it was a nice experiment with trying something besides my usual way of doing things. This is actually, I might add, this is the very first drawing that I began to incorporate curving lines. That was kind of exciting because shapes emerged that I couldn't even begin to plan. People kept seeing this fish shape in here. Well, if you see a fish, that's great. I didn't plan on having a fish in there, though. So. And this was the second and last mounted panel here. So.
Wonderful. Rob, anything else that folks should know about your latest show, Paths of Moving Points Cartography?
Well, I just hope you guys can. Well, there's one of those images that popped in there. So, no, I just hope folks can come by and take a look at the real deal, because it is work that when you see them from a distance, you see pretty much a blob of color. But once you start taking a closer look, you begin to get a little bit more involved with the actual creation of these paths of moving points.
Well said. Well, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Our final artist for the evening, we're going to hear from David Horton. Hi, David.
Hello. Glad to be here on a Wednesday night. Seems kind of empty compared to the 500 we usually have in here.
It's a fair point.
But people have been coming by, from what I understand, on all the shows since we stopped having the openings. We've done very well. I'm really happy with that. So I know people will see them. What you're looking at here now is familiar to those people who are familiar with my work. And they may be surprised the next time they get a chance to see things on the wall. I'm moving in a little different direction now, beginning to get hints of it in this show. The kind of beach or outdoor scenes that we're looking at here are pretty much what I've been doing for a couple of decades now. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of studying in Spain and doing work there that changed the way my coloration and symbology work. All of my work usually has symbols of some sort taking place in it. I did a lot of studying of symbols when I first started using them and discovered that many, many symbols have passed down through thousands of years through different cultures from all over the world that have similar meanings to human beings and in their cultural location. So it's something that seems to be universal among human beings. So it's really probably the first basic writing that we had. So I incorporate them. You can sometimes get a clue as to what's going on more. So I put a lot of emphasis on titles. Looking at this one here, let's just take this as an example. This was entitled The Poet. And it reflects the idea that poets can see beauty where others perhaps may not. We have a poet woman here looking at an article of war, and yet she sees beauty and kind of rebirth taking place. This one, second line, I think anybody who's lived in Louisiana any length of time knows what a second line is. Had actually had this completely painted and finished, and when I told someone the title of it, they said, well, where's the handkerchief? So I had to put a handkerchief in there. That's the only place it would fit, and it seemed to work out better because I had a little bit of space going on in there. This jacket with the symbols on it kind of reflects into the kind of voodoo concepts that always have been very prevalent in New Orleans. And somehow is also connected with that second line funeral. This is more about a kind of almost like the carefreeness of youth. If you know what the snake is in my paintings, which is that thing that comes out of nowhere that causes you either great joy or great sorrow. And in this case, the fish, which in my symbology works as a kind of idea of freedom of thought, freedom of movement, and it has the snake under control. Signs of life, the artichoke, mystery, the kind of circus juggler we have here on a pair of stilts. This one is actually named after one of my favorite songs by the Neville Brothers, I believe, called Bayou on the Bayou. And it actually harks back to a painting I did not long after I left Spain. And it had to do with the decorated boats I used to see in the bay where I lived. And they always were usually religious in nature, but very colorful and very symbolic in the kinds of things that were placed in the boats, on the boats. And I always found that to be a very mysterious, since I was not privy to all of that information. I always found it to be very mysterious and very attractive. This type of thing here, maybe more the direction I'm moving in. Interiors, I did a lot of interiors when I first started working in Paris because, well, Paris is an interior town, whereas my Spanish experience was all outdoors pretty much. But I'm beginning to put in some things that are more towards the beauty, something contemplative, perhaps, and using the symbols in a different way, perhaps less symbolic, more real. Perhaps the symbolism is still there, but the imagery itself is coming into a more focused concept. This one, Catch of the Day, the ambiguity here is what is the catch of the day? Is it really the fish? And took a few liberties and modeled this figure over here on Kelsey. I hope she doesn't mind. But as I say, I took a few liberties. This goes back to a series I did quite a while back when I was living in New Orleans that was patterned after a lot of things I had seen in Australian Aboriginal art, and particularly the use of animals and fish in such ways that were obviously had some sort of religious meaning to the painter. And that's where I'm getting the pattern structure that I'm using in here. And as you can see, there's a large fish, small fish, and smaller fish in here. This couple of things here, just a couple of samples to show people how I work. These are just sketchbooks, literally torn out of the sketchbook. Some of them go back quite a ways, but they are reminiscent of how I develop images before I take them to the big easel. Now this one over here, called it Jacob's Ladder, and if anybody really wanted to know, it's actually the second title is Love in the Time of COVID, and the entire COVID experience is in this painting, beginning at the left, moving around in a counterclockwise motion, and finishing up with the sun. It's much too complicated, I think, for me to go into here, but should anybody want to know, I'll be glad to talk to them about it. But there's symbols in there for false prophets, anti-maskers, you name it, it's all in there. This one is kind of almost a mystery to me. I've had this image in my head for years of this woman with a giant snake embroidered on her dress. It's not a real snake, it's actually a pattern built into the dress. I've given her the name Reina Madre de Endedur, which is Spanish for Queen Mother of, well, it actually means flood, but I'm taking it to mean overwhelmed. The goddess who controls the kinds of things that happen to us that make us feel as though we just don't know what to do next. We're completely inundated with what's going on. Little symbols here and there. This is the symbol for SOS. But she's in control. She's in control. The moon, which is romance, she's in control of that. The bird, which is intellect, she's in control of that. So basically, she has all the aspects of the kinds of things that the ancients looked at in goddesses. Sunday in the Park, this, you may have heard that title before, or La Grangette. It is one of those things that I just wanted to have the kind of joy that I've seen in that painting over the years. And this figure here has always been a favorite of mine. Obviously representing, this is the bird figure representing large intellect. Someone, a woman in this case, in charge of the snake. So she's also in charge of her own destiny. And then this is just pure fun. I love kites. And again, in this case, the snake seems to be under everybody's control. There's no surprises here. This one here in particular is under control of a particularly nasty little creature in some ways. But it has a lightness and a joy to it that I really enjoyed painting it.
David, can you talk to us about texture a little bit?
Yes, I use something called modeling paste. It's put on like you would put plaster on a wall, and it's basically marble dust suspended in acrylic. Once it hardens, it's almost like stone in some ways. It's not real flexible. I would not want to try and roll one of these paintings. I'm not sure what would happen. But the idea came to me in the small village of Spain where I had my studio. There was, walking into town the day after day, I would see these murals painted on the sides of the buildings. And of course, in that Mediterranean area, all the buildings were a kind of impasto plaster that had been applied to the outside, of stucco, if you will. And the texture gave the art just an added dimension, gave it a little bit more life in my view. And I started using it and discovered that by putting down paint and letting it partially dry and then wiping it away, I could control the lightness and darkness and also the accident. I like the accident concept. I don't draw into the modeling paste. I let the modeling paste, well, just lay as it lays, you know. It sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of what's going on in the texture in relation to the image. But the whole point is that it does have that kind of conflict between what the texture is doing and what the image is doing.
Gotcha. We're getting a few questions about the COVID-inspired piece. Do you mind going back to that, man? Maybe digging a little deeper on it?
No, I don't mind. Let's see if I can remember it all. It's pretty complicated when I started putting it down. This was this was the COVID itself. It started out as a firestorm or is going to become one. As we move across here, we have some anti-maskers in the form of religious folks who are holding up a banner of, I have my own freedom, I can do what I want to do, doesn't matter about a mask. These are the false attempts to develop or kind of spread the idea of certain things, such as our former president said, drink bleach. So these represent that kind of falsity. These are the failed attempts to develop a vaccine. In the early days, we weren't sure we were going to have one. This represents normal life, what we would normally be doing if it weren't for the COVID. And jumping over it is the rabbit, which in my opinion always represents a certain level of insanity. So we know what kind of crazy things were going on during the COVID. This is the ladder to reach the COVID vaccine, that shining kind of solution. This represents those who chose to tell lies about what was going on in order to advance their own agenda. And in doing so, they began to destroy the ladder that was going up to this. And finally, the death of COVID and our use of vaccines. This, I think I skipped over this. This actually represents those who chose to use the COVID as to enrich themselves by finding some way to either cash in on it or scam as a result, that sort of thing. And this lady here is just going about her business. She's partially masked, but at the same time, it's those people who never really panicked. And of course, there's always a little rain on the horizon when you're dealing with something like that. I think that about covers it.
Wonderful. Well, David, anything else that folks should know about your show, Wandering and Wondering?
Well, I'm still wandering and wondering. It may be that the next time they see work on these walls of mine, that it will be a noticeable, I won't necessarily say a radical, but certainly a noticeable departure. Most likely a simplification of the process and a simplification of the use of the symbol, so they become less narrative.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Well, David, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your works with us all this month.
Well, I appreciate it. And I have a few fans across the United States who are watching this right now. And it's the first time they've seen me in a year or more.
Well, we welcome all of them.
Yeah.
If you get by Baton Rouge, come see the show.
Well, I think this is a great idea, and I hope we continue to do this if it becomes necessary.
Well, let's hope we can get back to First Wednesday soon enough, but we might find a way to do something along these lines.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. That was our virtual First Wednesday. Thank you to all 4 artists who joined us this evening. We really appreciate it. And again, if you missed the announcements at the top of the presentation tonight, we have some exciting news in that there are 3 new efforts that Baton Rouge Gallery has embarked upon to try and make buying art and collecting original art more accessible for anyone and for everyone.
That is free delivery if you live within 22.5 miles of Baton Rouge Gallery, what we're calling Delivery 22.5. Also, interest-free payment plans if you'd like to put payments down on a monthly or periodic basis. We can help you in that process. And finally, a partnership with the Art Placer app, which is free for download from the Google Play or Apple Store. It is an augmented reality app that allows you to place artworks that you will find on Baton Rouge Gallery's website onto your wall so that you can see them to scale and perspective and be able to get a sense of what artwork looks like within your home or within your office. If you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to give us a call here at the gallery, 225-383-1470. There's plenty of information, though, on our website at batonrougegallery.org/buying-art. Information about all three of those announcements we made here tonight. And of course, you can see every single one of these pieces that you've seen in the gallery at batonrougegallery.org/current. Again, that augmented reality button is can be found with every single one of these pieces. You can try this workout at your home or office and get a sense of whether or not it would be a good fit for you. So thank you again for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. But come see this show. There's some incredible works, and it is on display free and open to the public through May 27th. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.